Come on, famous.
Let's see. I woke up at
Cut the crap, mate.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Fuck off, mate.
I think the question I was leading to was your fanzine resource unit. Was that a fucking load of old bollocks or what?
Well, I think it was a load of old bollocks, but it was a valid load of old bollocks, and it's because this
Notice he's using the past tense.
Did fuck all towards it.
You don't feel that perhaps the fanzine
Why?
community
Because it
is
was
just
a load
really
of old bollocks.
in it anyway for just publishing their own fanzine, that perhaps a sort of coordinating body would be otherwise.
Well, I think not necessarily coordinating, more a facility.
Well, what kind of facility do you offer?
Get on one of the chairs or something.
Facility.
Apart from pretty obvious, man.
You can't do it.
Fanzine every now and again.
Well, I've seen more of a facility can do.
Ah, I
Sort of
see.
thing I was looking for.
What was your reaction, Stephen, to the fanzine resource unit?
Well, how can I be polite?
Don't bother, we're amongst friends.
Oh, God.
Andy.
You didn't say that at the time.
No. No, I'm right behind Nick on this. I was right behind you.
Though not in the biblical sense.
Though not in the...
I was.
I think I should get another tape.
I think you should get another tape recorder. Yes. So what's this about the Mrs. Berryman and O'Brien's Appreciation Society?
I'm vetoing that because it didn't include Mrs. Rothwell.
Who's Mrs. Rothwell?
Sorry, carry on.
We've had a phenomenal response so far.
Well, the fingers for one thumb.
How can you be so cynical? we're already beating the glass in membership terms.
Well, it's real people, sure.
Yeah,
but
and we've got.
I mean, if we're talking about fanzines, I think we should specifically look at the sort of people who. I mean, we may be slow, but I think me and Steve do actually produce fanzines, unlike some people.
Well,
these people who
I wouldn't be
plan fanzines for years and never do anything towards publishing them.
Even getting lots of contributing nice articles written.
Absolutely.
And they're doing nothing.
And that gives fanzine editors nothing but a bad name. And what have you got to say to that?
Jimmy Hill,
I'm not publishing that anymore, I'm doing some now.
Well, there you have it. Apathy.
No, because I was too busy doing other things.
On a wider point on fanzines, I think we should talk to Gene now, who's doing a marvellous service.
I would like Gene to write for my fanzine.
Marvellous American porn in the name of Doctor Who fanzines.
But I've been doing that for years.
No, it's been crap.
Well, the thing is, you see, I did write my...
We should have more porn in Doctor Who.
We should, absolutely. I did
More porn!
More porn!
It's £7.50.
Just you wait till you see World Slip, that's all I
I mean,
can
I could
say.
ask you more questions,
You
but
want to
really,
see
Come on.
You got any leftover stories you don't want?
did you get that?
It's one story, it's 200 pages long.
That's a little bit shorter than World Slip actually, there's some really hot action in there.
Hot action?
Hot
We're
action.
talking John Leslie sort of stuff.
Um,
Oh, I don't know, some guy with a lot
Oh,
of
well, you know, we're talking
Can I ask a
descriptive passages of Mayfair.
Hold on, there's a question from the...
Mayfair, this is his mouth. Yes, please. Gene.
How long did you get you so thick to be able to be entitled to go behind the panel at convention?
Oh no.
We'll get back to you on that. Right, have a quick straw puff.
I want to know where Tintin is.
And where is Tim Monroe?
He's my friend, not getting into the best I've got tonight.
Good, because I want to word with him. I have a writ from my
Right.
solicitors that I wish to present to him.
Hope he'd be back.
Didn't you see that photograph in Private Life?
Bloody depressing.
The one of me and Gary Lee.
Depressing as being alive.
It's all Jonathan Powell's.
He wasn't doing anything, it was what the caption
If
said
you're
that was the problem.
Oh my God, are we watching this? Sorry, Tim.
Poor
Sorry,
guy,
Tim.
though.
Oh.
That's what he's like.
I think he's sorry.
Yeah, his brain.
Is this crap or
Well, I think we should have another question from the floor. Mr. Langley?
Ask him how old he is.
Ask a question without referring to Debbie Watling.
Notice the pause.
Who's going to do a good review of Paul Cornell's book?
Well, I think that, like mature,
I think we should start by calling
Mature-
Yeah, who understands?
I think like mature
Well, I
writers
think it gets
and
down to a question
editors.
of hegemony, don't you?
Sorry?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think like mature writers and editors, we should sit down, we should carefully read Paul's book, we should consider it in the wider implications of Doctor Who continuity as a whole, and then trash it.
Talking bogs.
Can I make one point, please?
Yes.
Don't trash the sweet shop owner, please.
All
Do
of
you
us
It'll
are
make
not...
sense. It'll make sense when you read.
Don't tell me you're in it. Are you in
Yes,
it?
I'm a sweet shop.
So am I. I'm in it as well.
What are you?
I'm a retired.
He's the sad pervert who...
tie around his head, aren't you?
Yeah.
You don't
Which he's gonna look like-
halfway through that.
Oh, really, don't I?
I'll get disseminated. They're my sweet shop.
Oh!
Let's talk about Cornell's TV player.
Oh, come on.
Are you recording?
I mean, who's got
Let's not talk about Cornell's TV play.
Can anyone explain that?
I think there was some good ideas.
It was as exciting as Chris Bumstead, wasn't it, Alan?
It was no pinball machine.
I thought the pistol was very good.
Yeah, but there was...
Yeah, I mean, I find one problem, like so many of these write-on fan writers, they
has to be done. Extrapolate. Love it.
Stop the fan!
his knowledge of Have you ever noticed how the vast majority of Doctor Who fan writers sort of would feign left-wing views, yet we love writing about death and destruction and, you know, huge battles and guns.
Well, that's obviously a right-wing thing, and they're obviously the bad guys.
Why is death a right-wing thing?
I was thinking more in terms of militarism.
Oh, come on.
Because it makes good drama.
You realise...
Because it makes good drama. Anyway,
I mean, Richard Lester, the great film director, said that the thing about war is that the toys are so good.
Yeah.
And I think
And Fat Bastard's just walked into the hall.
who was that fat bastard? Mark Wright.
Mark Wright is wrong.
May we have some comments from another fanzine editor?
We're having the fanzine
What
panel.
do you intend to do with your review of Cornell's book?
Well, just consider, Mark, all those women looking for Mr. Right. And there you are, just there.
Well, Cornell's book review.
That's pretty sad.
The thing about our fanzine is that we don't do sad things like book reviews. So we're not going to do, because we're not going to do anything with Cornell's book review.
I know, I like it.
That's a valid point.
So anyway, I'm going to town.
It hasn't got.
No, we've just closed it.
That's a pretty sad joke.
It is.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, it's slightly rippled with a flat underside.
Yeah, just like that. At this time in the day,
At this time, yes, tell us about it.
I like to pour water back into there. There's not much I can really sort of do with it now, actually.
It's not really. You can shove it up your ass.
Well, that would be so vulgar and non-Vic.
And it's not a domino.
No, it's not really.
It's not really, is it?
Make a good one.
Well, they all got about 3 and a 2, so.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, right. You haven't really told us about the cake recipes.
Cake recipes. That's Mark's department.
Yeah.
But Mark, being a
Boring bastard.
Being a boring old
vampires
bastard.
fucked off and not brought a cake.
yeah. Have you heard about this? Mark was going to bring a cake to this thing.
Or a cake.
With
Shall we
you
just
know,
say it's
slightly
a mystic,
unusual.
a mystic ingredient?
Strange element in it, yeah.
Yeah,
Foreign
cocoa.
bodies.
And he got all.
It's joke.
Oh, that's so crap.
It's so crass. It's so. You were born for that joke, weren't you? Hey, are we going to have a good time or what?
We are going to have a good time.
Or what, probably, yeah.
What actually, yeah.
Not the all.
I mean, this is all disjointed.
It is. Excuse me, no,
I've
I
got
didn't.
two made up glass.
Yes, they bloody well can.
Yes, they can, can't they?
Yes.
Some of them, the
Yeah,
lucky
I've got
ones.
some stuff. I've got some.
Look, I'm not doing it.
Some are funny, some
Eh?
are serious.
I'm not doing it.
Oh, anything really.
No.
No!
Articles.
You know why?
It helps if you know what
Why?
the article should
I'm
be
not
about.
gay.
Oh,
I was going to do an article
Well,
about cultism.
if it works for Alec Charles.
yeah. Cultism.
Yeah, he's good.
Hello, Locutus.
Sunday, do you know if it's a t-shirt?
Banner to the A's. There, that's mine.
Redemption 2. We're not getting lots of 140 on Sunday. We're doing...
Adam Adaman lives, that's one of mine.
Of course, I've something flames tomorrow.
Many more.
The manager of
Are you going to...
I'm going to eat something because I am starving.
Alright, let's go out. You really want to eat. He's only been dead one day. He's bloody sorry word fast.
in that face that's in her face. I can see it as her.
You are related to her.
He is. Meet Jonathan Hurd. Oh yeah. Corey Hurd is his grandmother's cousin. Thank you. But honestly, the moment he told me, I looked at him and I thought, whether it's the eyes or the brain, I'm not quite sure, but I can see it.
I
You are very good at watching between 8 o'clock and 10.
Where the hell is the Great West?
We stand at the bottom of the in the mornings. No, it's actually in the evening.
Stephen, I've had too much to drink. Slightly, possibly.
You lot are residents, so you should get a drink, alright?
Residents? Who's a resident?
Who told me you were a resident? Who's a resident of the Great Western?
No, not me.
I'm not a resident. Hey, Paul? You're a resident.
Yeah, they're residents.
We're all in room 25, alright?
No, that's us. We're 25. Whose key's that?
John, copy of the video, it's alright. We'll be able to edit anything we don't like.
Wait,
This video we've got.
of course, if you pay a price, then the worst bits will be cut out.
No, the worst is all.
So not the GR fan club, yes. But to get the best of both worlds.
Right to me, alright? Oi!
Seriously, question not 5 over. There are 30 copies available today that really do wish a copy. Proceeds are going to British Art Foundation, which is Grey Balloons charity. I will take all this for anybody else who wishes a copy. Another plug for the Lala Ward video, which is 1.5 hour long video, $14.99.
and that will be available at the end of November, and again, taking orders for them today. So commercial over, start of the convention. My name's Gordon Roxburgh, I'm the MC for the weekend. As you can probably tell, I'm a Scotsman. We get everywhere, hopefully we're all over the minefield this afternoon, in English. But my family moved down to Devon, which is why I'm here, and Exeter is more or less on my doorstep these days. So those of you from Exeter, very convenient, very handy for you, there's a convention down here. For those of you who've travelled some distance, hope you enjoy yourself today. We all enjoyed ourselves last year. Hope we had a good time again this year, especially tonight at the Halloween party. And as I say, family atmosphere. Members of the Doctor Who family, some elder statesmen like Nick Courtney, Debbie Watling, Terence Dix, and some more occasional distant cousins or family visitors, people who've just been in the odd one or two stories. But to start it off with, we're going to have a panel, which will be Nick Pegg doing an interview. Just another quick plug for some of the videos. Star Trek Next Generation is enjoying lots of popularity these days. And you'll see from the video timetable that Redemption Part 1 is built for today, 9 o'clock, and tomorrow Part 2 is at 2:30. Note how popular this is going to be. These episodes will also be streamed at lunchtime today, and again at lunchtime tomorrow. So 2 chances to see it. Okay, I think that's all the announcements for the moment, apart from enjoy yourselves. So I'll now hand you over to Nick Pegg. I hope. Please.
Hello.
You all hear me?
No.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry about that. Must have, first of all, I hope many cock-ups this weekend. But we're all ready to go now, so without any further ado, let me introduce an old friend to the convention circuit, Mr. Nicholas Courtney.
Right, yes. Good morning. I've got a... Yes, that's right. Yes, carry on, please. Yes, good. So it's the knees.
Yeah, those are the
knees.
So, Nick, this is your first time at an Exeter convention, but you're by no means a stranger to this part of the world, is that right?
Well, no, not really, because I think the first association I can remember with Exeter is, I can give away secrets now, classified information. During the war, the Second World War, not the First, I was at a school in Kent, yes, in Kent, I'm trying to remember the town, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we were evacuated to somewhere called East Budleigh, and I believe that Budleigh Salterton is the nearest town, and the place was called Bigton House, and it's now, I think, a science museum, because I've been back to see it since then. So that was my first introduction to Exeter. But the West Country, later today, about 12 noon, or around about there, my sister, one of my sisters, my younger sister, actually is in Exeter, although she's working in Tewkesbury, but she's lived in Exeter for some time. So it's not my first visit to Exeter. She used to live in Topsham, giving you a sort of a guided tour around Exeter, which isn't very far from here, Topsham. And also, during the 50s and 60s, my mother lived in Taunton, and I used to spend a lot of my time in Taunton. So, yes, I think you could rightly say I'm no stranger to the West Country. And, of course, I forgot to tell you about Penzance, haven't I?
Penzance?
Yes, Penzance.
Have you been a pirate?
No, I haven't been a pirate, not lately. Again, during the war, there's a little place outside Penzance called Porthcurno, where there's a wonderful theatre halfway down the cliff, and it's called the Minnock Theatre. Some of you may know about it. And actually, my stepmother's father, with another lady who lived next door, built that theatre. And I remember, again, during the war, when I was quite small, and spending some summer holidays there, I seem to remember the 40s, they always had wonderful summer weather, although we're getting it back again now. And I think my stepmother, I remember her at one point saying, come inside the house now, Nicholas. I said, but why? I want to stay out, you know, I'm enjoying the sunshine. Come inside the house, she said, because actually there was a German plane flying overhead. I don't know, they must have gone way astray, I think, coming over near Penzance. Anyway, there we are. So yes, West Country.
Yes, well that's the West.
West.
Yes, let's sort out the West. What about the East? What's been happening in the Far East recently, Nick?
What's been happening in the Far East? What, of late, you mean?
Well, I mean, involving yourself.
Oh yes, well I went on, earlier this year I went on a tour of the Far East, in a comedy thriller called Busybody with Dora Bryan and Alfred Marks. And it was wonderful because I'd never been to the Far East before. And we started off in Kuala Lumpur, and then we went to Jakarta in Indonesia, then to Penang in Malaysia, and then all the way from Penang up to, quite a long flight, all the way up to Beijing, Peking. And I climbed the Great Wall of China earlier this year in the snow, which isn't bad for a chap of my sort of advanced years.
You're quite young.
Yes, fairly young, yes, young sort of spirit. Yeah.
Yes.
Good
So
spirit.
did you do this entirely on your own, or was everyone watching? Or?
Well, the climbing the wall. No, I did that on my own because the cable car wasn't working because it was snowing, and there were a lot of steps up to the Great Wall, I can tell you. And I think coming down was slightly harder because you get sort of more vertigo feelings, I think, coming down. But I was very proud, and they gave me a T-shirt when I got to the bottom saying I climbed the Great Wall of China, and I can wear that with truth because I did. But that was wonderful, Peking. City full of bicycles. It's wonderful because bicycles rule the roost there. Cars can't go fast because everyone's on bicycles, and they really are in droves all the time. And so cars have no chance. They take second place to people who are riding bicycles. So I got on a bicycle, because I'm told once you've ridden a bicycle, you don't forget. I hadn't ridden some time. I rode around Peking and had a look at Tiananmen Square and other things. Anyway, from Peking, then we went all the way to the South Pacific, to an island called Guam, then to Singapore, and then we finished up in Hong Kong. It was a wonderful tour. This is a tour put on by a chap by the name of Derek Nimmo, who does these tours. And Derek Nimmo and I, incidentally, although he's in management now, we first worked together. You were talking about East earlier, weren't you? Yes. One of my early jobs was Clacton-on-Sea. That was a repertory theatre, Clacton-on-Sea. And Derek Nimmo and I were sort of juveniles in that company. In Clacton-on-Sea. It was run by a lovable rogue by the name of Arthur Lane, who I don't think is with us anymore. But yes, that's Derek Nimmo. And he said to me when he was buying the wardrobe before we went on this tour, and he said, who would have, I can't imitate his voice very well, I'm not very good at this voice. Who would have thought, Nicholas, there we were, you see, juveniles in Clacton-on-Sea, and now I'm buying you clothes. Isn't it wonderful? And he did. He bought me the clothes for this play, because I didn't think I'd wear my own suit, because if you're travelling around, the suit you've got to wear can take a bit of a thrashing. I thought I'd let him buy the suit, and when he offered me to buy it, I said, no thanks, actually, I've got quite a nice one anyway, so I don't need it. But, so that was the Far East, yes.
Kuala Lumpur, Beijing, Clacton.
Absolutely.
So what were you actually doing in this thriller? Obviously?
Oh, this was a thriller called Busybody. I was playing, very nice, because they're nice parts. I was playing the nasty chap. I like playing nasty men, it's very good. And he was a hard-nosed businessman, and he gets murdered, but he's not murdered in the end. And point of fact, everyone thinks he's murdered, but he isn't. It's one of those sort of thrillers. I never understand thrillers. I don't know about you, Nick.
Oh.
I can never work them out. That's why I played Agatha Christie all my life in my early days in the theatre, and I can never understand. I don't understand thrillers, but they're wonderful. Particularly Ruth Rendell mysteries. They're very good, on television.
Yes.
Very well done.
Would you like to be involved in one of those?
I would, because I like to work with my friend George Baker. Yes, that'd be very nice.
Well, what about this morning fresh advert then? I mean, it was suggested last night in the bar that morning fresh isn't a patch on fairy liquid. I mean,
yes, well, many things were suggested in the bar last night. I seem to remember, but as is they often are. Well, there you are. I have to demur not because I just received a check a couple of weeks ago from my agent because it was put out again this year. I gave it out last year. But I really do use it myself. They don't give it back to buy it. But I find it's better. And if you really want sort of a laborious explanation, I'll give it to you. I think it's, you see, fairy liquid is too soapy. It's too soapy. I find morning fresh very good indeed. And I'm very lucky to have a lady who comes and helps me clean the flat.
Annette Newman?
What's it? No, not Annette Newman. She doesn't come around and help me clean the flat, no. This lady, and she approves of my choice, and she's a very experienced lady who comes in. Well, we're cleaning the flat, and she thinks the morning fresh is okay, and as do I. No, I really like it, and I buy it. Yes.
A quick straw poll, I think. Morning fresh versus very liquid. Who prefers very liquid? Yeah. And the morning fresh?
Royal people,
Yes, really, isn't it? Yes. Yes, that's interesting. Well,
what about the rest of the audience use personally?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I suppose we better talk about Doctor Who.
Oh, up to you.
Talk about Doctor Who?
Feel free. Well, I don't know. Ultimately, yes.
Yes, that's the one about the eye patches. No.
Yeah, I couldn't do it this morning. Probably because my eyes are sort of not quite ready yet. Not quite ready.
No, so when Colonel Lethbridge Stewart first came on the scene back in 1922 or whatever it was,
Remind me to assassinate you later.
how apparent was it that you were going to become a regular character? Was it not apparent at all? Or?
No, it wasn't apparent at all. I was just booked for the Web of Fear, and suddenly Peter Bryant, who was in, the producer, said to me, would you like to have a 2-year contract? And I said yes, indeed, because it was very good, because my first child was about to be born, and security was exactly what I wanted. And so I said, how's that? And they said, well, actually, Patra is leaving quite soon this year, which he was.
The programme being introduced at the same time with Unit and with Liz, and Sergeant Benson came in as a regular character in that season as well. Had that all been decided on before the Doctor had, or don't you really know?
Well, I think the whole idea of Unit had been decided, because I mean, in the Invasion of the Cyclones, that's when you first see me as the Brigadier, and Patrick Troughton says, oh, you've got another pip on your shoulder. And so the whole idea of Unit had obviously been decided, yes, before John joined it, because of the story, the story, of course, in the War Games, that the Doctor's exiled to Earth, and that's why all the stories were earthbound, and they were quite fun, all those earthbound stories.
Yes.
Yes.
So what was it like being transported to an alien world in the Three Doctors to meet a fellow who we're going to be seeing later on today?
Oh, to be transported to a planet. Well, you see, in the Three Doctors, that was, I think, one of the first time that the Brigadier ever got in the TARDIS, because he was extremely suspicious of the whole machine before then, and he didn't want to go anywhere in the TARDIS. He knew about it, accepted it, shrugged his shoulders, raised his eyebrows, and sort of said, okay, Doctor, I'm whizzing around the universe. But that was the first time, I'm pretty sure, that the brig got into the TARDIS, and was fairly appalled at the terrible waste of money. I remember there's a line, this is what you've been spending unit funds on, nowadays, looking at all these consoles and gadgets inside there. He was fairly annoyed that unit funds have been spent on this strange machine. And anyway, but that's the first time, and then suddenly it takes off. And then you remember that line which I know I claim credit for, because I did write it myself, when they're on this alien planet, and everything's very worrying, because everyone's sensitive. The Doctor, Katie Manning, Joe Grant, and whoever else, and probably Benton, for all I know, very worried, because they can see there's a lot of danger. Pretty cool as a cucumber, said, no, don't worry. I've been around there, I've had a wreck here, I'm fairly sure that's Chroma out there. Now, I wrote that line.
Why didn't you write Budley?
I wrote that line, and the Brigadier, bless him, got it wrong again. He thought it was Chroma, and it wasn't. It was an alien planet, which was probably could be more dangerous than Chroma, I think.
You probably didn't even travel as far as Chroma to film it, I don't suppose.
No, I'm trying to remember where the outside filming was done for the Three Doctors. You've got me for the moment.
Yes. I'm sure someone out there.
Oh, someone. I'm sure someone. I can't remember for the moment, yes. Well, it was somewhere in England.
And a bit later on, there obviously came a point when the brig was winding down as a regular, as you say, it was just lurching back every now and then.
Lurching back, yes.
Was that a conscious decision on your part to sort of leave?
No, it wasn't. This is why my friend John Woodnut is here, I'm glad to say today, and a lot of people people say, which was your least favourite story? And I have to say, Terror of the Zygons, which John was in, and not because of the story, but because that was during that story that I thought, that's it. That's the end of this character. I'm never going to come back again. It was the last story I did. Little did I know that John Nathan Turner had other ideas. 7 years later, to bring me back. But I was very unhappy because I enjoyed doing it so much. I thought, oh, that's the end. Old soldiers never die. They fade away. And I didn't even have a good death scene to go out on. I thought, oh, this is not fair. And I had to show my knees off because I wore a kilt in that one you made. That's right. Remember that? I wasn't sure about that. That might have, had the viewers writing in their thousands say, we don't want to see this man with his knees and kilt, and how dare he, has he got the right sporran, I suppose, or, and is he allowed to wear that kilt, etc. So that was, yes, Terror of the Zygons. Not that it wasn't a good story, it was a good story. And that was, again, a Douglas Camfield directed. Talking about Douglas, he was very much, I think, apart from inevitably oneself, I think he was more responsible for the whole idea of the Brigadier happening. Because you know that story, I told you that one. I'll risk saying it again. In the Web of Fear, I'm sort of going backwards again, lurching backwards. The part of Colonel Lethbridge Stewart was going to be played by an actor by the name of David Langton, who you may remember from Upstairs and Downstairs. And the last moment he got another job, or couldn't do, he had to ring up. And so Douglas rang me up and said, look, do you mind playing the Colonel instead of the Captain? I said, no, Dawn's promotion is wonderful. Had I played Captain Knight in the Web of Fear, Captain Knight gets killed. So had not David Langton had another job, or couldn't do it for some reason, my life as the brig probably never would have happened. Yes, so I owe David Langton a great deal, don't I?
Well, you could have ended up in Upstairs Downstairs instead of him.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure when it was. Yes, I thought I would tell you that.
No, that's right. Thank you.
How many times have I told you? Oh,
27 and a half.
27 and a half times. Oh, that's not too bad.
Not as many as the eye patch. No eye patches. So anyway, in Inferno, there was this scene. No.
Yes.
Do we have a question from the floor for Nick Courtney?
Or should we go on rabbiting for a bit longer?
Did you want to die in Battlefield?
Did I want to die in Battlefield? Well, no. Originally, when the first draft of the script came out, I was going to, because John invited me down to Brighton. I had a talk, and he said, look, Nick, I'm going to do this story, Battlefield. Do you mind being killed off as a brigadier? And I said, no, that's all right, because I thought I had a good run. Let's face it, 1968 to 1989 isn't bad for one part. And so I said, no, good. He said, let me go out and blaze of glory. And I said, yes, kill me off, fine. But then, as the script, the new drafts arrived of the script, Ben Rolovich's script, the way the story was going, there were so many explosions going on, so John said, look, we've decided not to kill you off, because we don't want your death going unnoticed. I said, no, quite right. So they decided not to kill me off. But originally, to start with, they had planned to kill me off, but then they didn't. I mean, there's a moment, I think, at the end of Battlefield where it looks as though I'm dead, and I suddenly open my eyes and say, come along, doctor, pick me up or something. Sylvester comes and says, oh, I can't imitate Sylvester's accent. Go on. You mad fool, you're supposed to die in bed. Is that bad for Saturday morning impersonation of Sylvester?
I know that's very good. Quick round of applause. Thank you.
So yes, as I say, originally I was going to be killed off, but then they changed their mind and didn't. So he lives to fight another day, Brigadier.
What was the death of the brig meant to be sort of that same scene, as it were, but you were just going to be dead at that point, or was there a whole different ending?
No, I think the ending, it was, as you know, it was all to do with the Arthurian legend Battlefield, and the Brigadier was going to play the part of King Arthur, if you see the analogy I'm trying to make, and he was going to die to save the world, the Brigadier. I mean, I was rather saddened why they didn't kill me off. I mean, it's a lovely heroic way. I mean, what a hero the brig would have been if he'd saved the world and died. I mean, I might have been a legend in my own lifetime or something like that. So, but they changed their mind, so I opened my eyes and went over to Doris immediately.
Yes, back to Doris.
Back to Doris, and back to the desk. I decided, this book I'm talking about?
Oh, yes, the book you've been writing since.
The book you have been writing.
1960.
No, absolutely right. I decided this morning it'll be ready at the millennium, you know,
Oh, yes.
in the year 2000. So don't hold your breath, Nick, will you?
I'll try not to. This is the further adventures of the brig.
Well, whatever happened to the Brigadier, yes. But the plot's all there, you see, the plot's all there, but it's all to do with the Middle East, and since the Middle East situation changes so often, you say, I have to keep on altering it, you see. Well, that's my excuse. However, next month, you'll be glad to hear there's a special unit edition of the Doctor Who magazine, and there's a very good artist who's done the frontis cover, and Briggs there, and Katie Manning and Sergeant Benton, and I've written an article, 800 words.
Really?
Mr.
How
John
much did
Freeman.
they pay you?
I'm not telling you, I can't tell you that. I mean, John Freeman will never forgive me. And 800 words, and so I've done that, and so I've written another aspect of my time reflecting on UNIT. And I say some fairly new things in that article, you'll be glad to hear. I mean, eye patches don't get a look in.
No eye patches?
No, eye patches don't get a look in, you get the gag.
Yes, they
eye patches don't get a look in.
Eye patches look in, they can't. Very good.
Right.
I want to ask you a question actually about the brig at the beginning. Did you obviously the character developed a bit over the years, but did you see him as quite a nasty sort of chap at the beginning? Because you did do some appalling things in your first few stories, blowing up the Silurians and annoying Pertwee something wrong, you know.
Well, he probably deserved it. He deserved to be annoyed. But no, but you see, I did some appalling things, yes, but don't forget the character. He's the military man who plays it by the book. And his argument would be, the fact that, all right, it's the military solution, but what is a brigadier supposed to do? He only has the military solution. In fact, by the time Robot appeared on the scene, you know, Tom Baker's first story, you know, there's that wonderful line that Terence Dix wrote, you know, about, you know, something like, you know, I just wish once there was some alien who would be not be impervious to the might of the military machine. I misquoted the line totally, by the way, so Terence will tell me later today what the line is. But what does you see, what would the brigadier do? I mean, the Silurians were killing my chaps. Well, a good officer has to get rid of the Silurians. We leave it to the ecologists, like the Doctor, to know that I'm going to blow up all the rest of people, of course, is appalling. But I don't think he was an appalling chap.
I think he was appalling.
He was an appalling chap. I mean, he did his duty in the way he thought it ought to be done. The fact that you can make moral judgments, yes indeed, but I mean, but look at all those, you see, look at all those army men down the centuries who fought all these battles and all these, you know, all the deaths that have happened. So military men do make mistakes, and my word they have. That's why I was never going to be a serious soldier. That's why I stayed a private in the army, because I had no ambition to be a serious soldier. I think you can call me a celluloid soldier. A celluloid soldier. Maybe that's what the new subtitle of the autobiography.
Celluloid soldier.
Celluloid soldier. No, I'm not sure about that.
So those Silurians had you over a barrel, basically.
I don't remember being put over a barrel by a Silurian, but
yes, well, moving swiftly on.
moving swiftly.
Actually, one of those officers the Silurians polished off was a fairly young Paul Darrow, I think.
Fairly young Paul Darrow, indeed. Yes, yes. He was a captain, wasn't he? Yes, one of my disposable captains, I think he was.
You had a really bad run of captains, didn't you? Until Yates came along, they all got killed off one by one.
One after the other, yes. The captains didn't last terribly long. Yes, they sort of with the forward guy or the brigadier. You see, rank has its privileges.
Yeah.
The brigadier survived, and captains fell by the wayside, let alone the other poor soldiers who died. I mean, Briggs' army, wonderful. It's a wonderful army, brigadier, a captain, and a sergeant, and poor squad, and Terry Walsh and squaddies, you know, sort of falling all over the place when autons and other things threaten the world. Yes.
Did you have stunt doubles much?
Stunt doubles? Yes. I don't think I have had a stunt double, because the writers decided not to ask me to do too many difficult things. I think the most sort of active part I can remember is in a story called The Ambassadors of Death, and seeing it recently again, it was like Wyatt Earp, a Wild West story. I was firing guns all over the place, and sort of, you know, people coming more by, and then just shooting them one by one. Looked at that, it was amazing. That was quite active.
Fancy footwork.
Fancy footwork. And, sort of John Wayne, each child.
Do we have another question for Nick? Yes.
Do you have a favourite writer in the series?
I'm sorry?
Favourite writer?
Favourite writer in the series? Yeah, that's a good question. I must say, in the early years, the writing was very, very good, I thought, and the stories were jolly good, and the actors are only good as the writers are. Robert Holmes, I thought, was a terrific writer. Mac Hulk. Yes, and Don, well, it's because I enjoyed the story Inferno so much that Don Horton, who wrote that, was pretty good. I mean, they were action-packed, 25-minute good episodes of very pacey, and that's part of it was Douglas Camfield, who's such a good director and kept the thing going at a great lick. I think, yes, probably Don Horton, Bob Holmes, Mac Hulk, and who wrote The Demons? Guy Leopold. Guy Leopold. That was an excellent story, The Demons. Yeah, very good.
Any more for any more? Yes.
Do you think Robert Holmes wrote anything voluntarily altered questions being raised in the House of Commons?
Yes. I remember the outcry when that happened. Well, you see, I think Doctor Who in its history has often been accused of being too violent, even, at different times. Now, for example, Terror of the Old Ones, that was 1971, 70. And then it's been attacked again since about being too violent. I don't think he went too far, because, I mean, it's supposed to be thrilling, Doctor Who, and it should be. I don't think he went too far. I don't know, but I find that difficult to judge, because that's why I'm not a producer, because we have to make these decisions about whether something's too violent or not. You see, the whole argument about violence is extraordinary, because I find the truth is a good deal more violent. I mean, what you have to do, you look at a documentary, a newsreel coverage of horrors that go on in the world. I mean, they're far more frightening because they're fact, and that violence is much more shocking, I think, than fictional violence. So I think people, you don't get MPs writing and complaining about, for example, footage of the Vietnam War and all wars, and that's, I think, far more, in a way, shocking, but I mean, it has to be told. I know the story has to be told. So I think it's a very comparative violence, I think. I don't know, people, it's up to them if they want to complain. Yes, there was a question asked in the House of Commons. I think it was a very good story, Terror of the Autons. Very good story. With wonderful Roger Delgado, and it's very good.
I think it only gets dangerous when you don't show the effects of the violence, and the perfect story is tended to do that, and show that it hurts.
Yes.
If you get into something like the A-Team and people are just blowing up helicopters and surviving without a crash, then it's a bit more sinister. That's my little sociological statement for the day. Was anyone looking? Maybe got another question. No? Oh, well, let's talk about this. Silurians again, shall we?
Yes.
No. So, Don Hartnell also wrote The Mind of Evil.
Yes, he did.
We haven't talked about that much.
No, we haven't talked about that.
The Mind of Evil.
Oh, I haven't talked about The Mind of Evil, where I do my Cockney accent.
Yes, that's like the Cockney accent.
When I'm doing the delivery, I'm playing a delivery band, Something, I can't remember the line, something about, what about that, mate, or something like that. And there's a brig in his flat cloth cap or whatever, and then storms Dover Castle. That was filmed in Dover, and in fact we stormed Dover Castle. That was Tim Coombe directed that, Mind of Evil. That was Roger Delgado's second, I think, or third story. That was a very good story. And yes, Don Horton at that time, because were there Chinese?
That's right. Don's wife played.
Don's wife, indeed, Nixon. That's right. Yes. And were there Chinese ambassadors?
Yes, that's right. Being murdered off by.
That's right, because I had one scene, and fairly horrified when the doctor, of course, inevitably just started talking Chinese. The brigadier thought, God, there's Pertwee showing off again. It wasn't Pertwee showing off at all, actually. It wasn't him showing off. It was the fact that the doctor would know how to speak Chinese, wouldn't he? The brigadier felt ill at ease. He wasn't asked to speak languages. Just. So,
was Pertwee a natural Hokkien speaker, or did he get tuition for?
Oh, I no, I think he knew it. No, John, I think he knew the language. I think he did. I don't think he got special tuition. I don't remember him saying, "No, sorry, Mr. Producer Director, I've got to take 3 days off now to go and brush up on my Hokkien." No, he wasn't allowed to do that. No, the turnaround was far too fast and not to, to do it in a week. I guess he knew something. He knew Chinese because I think he knew Vixen and Donald's wife before we shot the show.
Yeah.
So he probably learned a bit of Chinese.
Well, you don't have to ask for a cup of tea and a slice of cake, as far as I can
remember. Is that what we have to do?
Something like that.
Yes. Do you know what a slice of cake is in Chinese then?
I'm afraid I don't.
Do you know what a cup of tea is?
No.
No?
No, I don't.
Would it have been Chinese tea or Indian, do you think? No, it's a very close question. You don't have to answer it.
No, I won't.
Plead the fifth.
I'll treat that with a contempt it deserves. The Mind of Evil was actually, at the time, the most expensive Doctor Who story that's ever been made. Did you
Was
know?
it?
Yes. There were all sorts of hardware. There was a missile involved, which was actually borrowed from Ministry of Defence or some private missile owner of some kind.
Private missile. Was on oh yes, we got it from. Did we get it from Gaddafi? No. Maybe he lent it to us. I don't know.
All right. Maybe it was a fan. I don't know.
Or was it Saddam? No, before Saddam's time.
Before his time, yes. Yes.
But it was expensive. I mean, storming the castle was
yes.
quite.
Yes. Had some real Marines in on there, not just the stuntmen. Is that right?
That's right. I believe so. The first time they had some. I'm supposed during the invasion of the Cybermen with Pat Troutman, and I remember that because Douglas Campbell directed that, and we were filming outside a disused factory quite near where the BBC rehearsal rooms are now in Northampton, and they hadn't been built at that time actually, and it was a sort of disused factory which belonged to the BBC. And one morning the coach, we started filming, the coach turned up, and there was actually a platoon of real soldiers, and their lieutenant was a man called Lord James. I mean, they were literally from Clarence House or the Household Cavalry, I mean, or in one of the palaces, I think. I think most of their time, that time was spent, patrolling one of the establishments where I had the Queen Mother. Anyway, and it was Lord James, and he was a lieutenant, and because Dougie Campbell was very determined about this. If he could, he wanted, real soldiers. He wanted them to look like proper real soldiers rather than extras. So he managed to get stretched on the budget, and it was quite nice actually because we got on the coach, and I heard them. These chaps coming up, the squaddies coming up the coach, and they weren't sure for a second. I thought, you're not doing bad, call me. They said to their lieutenant, "Do we salute him, sir?" For a second they weren't sure whether I was a real or a pretend brigadier. So for a second I had them fooled that I was a real one. And I can't remember what Lieutenant Lord James said, whether they saluted or not. They weren't quite sure. But they did ask.
Was this quite a daunting experience? What did you take it to? What did you decide?
Oh, not
well, no, to have real soldiers.
Real soldiers. Oh, no, I was very grateful, because then, from time to time they'd tell me if I was possibly firing the gun in the wrong direction.
Excuse me.
Hello, yes. Right.
Sorry, I was being straight messages fed to me.
That's very good. We have a surprise coming for you in a moment.
Yeah, we have a surprise coming, yes.
Now, what other matters did you wish to discuss with me?
Oh, okay.
What classified information do you want me to reveal to you?
Well, what else can we reveal?
What else can we reveal?
Let's reveal some classified information about another advert that's got nothing to do with washing up liquid, but has something to do with voiceovers.
Oh yes, this is something I did this year. Apple Computers, that's right. And it was an American actor originally, and I had to dub this American actor into English. How dare I say that? Well, it's true, of course, you see, because they're American and we're English. I mean, there's a difference across that pond. And that was Apple Computers, and that went out. Some people did. You picked up my voice.
I did, actually. I know. I said, that's Courtney, I said.
That's Courtney, and you're absolutely right. And yes, the bank manager was very happy about that. Yes, they can pay very well commercials. They're a lot of fun to do. I don't always get. I mean, that Morning Fresh one, I promise you, was the first commercial I got in, I think, 17 years. The previous one was something for British Leyland, when that used to be in operation. I was a salesman. But I'm sure, I don't often get them, commercials. I don't. I mean, I've been going for quite a few the last few months. I don't mind going up to them, but usually I see my friend John Wooden up there. We will be meeting later today. John and I often sort of turn up at casting sessions, not necessarily for the same part, but we have the same agent. Very good she is too.
Right, now Nick, if we...
Oh, by the way, I better tell you about Born Kicking, haven't I?
Oh, yes, tell us about Born Kicking.
Well, Born Kicking is a BBC play which should be going out. It's all about football. It's about the idea of having a professional, about the idea of a woman being a professional footballer. Because I don't know if you know this, but actually, you can't, women aren't allowed to play professional football. And the whole story is about the idea of trying to get this young girl who's very good at football to allow her to be able to play professional football. And I play this dubious Conservative Member of Parliament, and I think he's very dubious. Mind you, there's plenty of material to base that on. The manager comes up and says, now, can you get a special bill through the House of Commons whereby women will be allowed to play professional football? And I said, well, I don't think I'll get it through, it'll be talked out by the opposition. And so he said, well, how many of your constituents, how many are women? And I said, about half. I said, yes, it's true, about half. I think what called publicity to do. So the Conservative MP says, yes, all right, I'll have a go. I'll try and get through the House of Commons. Of course, it doesn't get through the House of Commons at all. But in the meantime, why this MP is dubious is because the professional, the manager says, have you renewed your season ticket? And I said, no, I haven't got round to that yet. He said, don't worry, it'll be in the post. So obviously he gets 3 years free season ticket for attempting to pass this bill through the House of Commons, but it militates against him because he doesn't get through the House of Commons, gets talked out. Anyway, Born Kicking, which should be shown, I suppose, before the end of the year. BBC screenplay.
Nick, let us lurch back again to 1968 and the Web of Fear. In that story, you made your acquaintance with a young lady who was then playing the Doctor's companion.
Yes.
Who's now going to join us on stage, ladies and gentlemen, Deborah Watling.
Now you can't fly up here. You can't fly up here. I don't think you can do that.
Morning. All right.
Good morning. We haven't actually met yet, have we? Hello. I'm Nick.
Oh, I thought you knew each other.
We met about 48 years ago.
Very good, Miss Hoffman, Nick.
I
thought everyone.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, everyone.
What do you mean everyone knows
I
them?
thought everyone.
For the nicest possible reasons, hopefully.
Absolutely. Anyway, that's Nick there.
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Debbie. Well, Debbie, what do you remember of this old reprobate in the Web of Fear?
This reprobate, oh goodness me. I remember meeting Nick. I think Dad was with me at the time, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. And Fraser and Pat, and he was, in those days, very tall, very handsome, dark-haired.
Yeah, very dark.
Swarthy. I thought, oh, he's a bit of all right. And that was Nick. And you haven't changed a bit.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
No, but that was, yes, it was the Web of Fear. Did you come to the first episode, or did you?
No, I wasn't in the first episode. I think I'm 2, 3, and 4. I think I come in episode 2. It's 4 parts. 6 parts. Oh gosh, 6 years.
It was down the underground, wasn't it?
Down the underground.
That's right. Yes, Dougie Canfield.
Wasn't he clever, Dougie?
Oh, he was.
I mean, the way he... Because do you know that London Transport rang the production office and said, how dare you film in the underground without our permission? Dougie hadn't done that in Lime Grove, which I think we did, I'm pretty sure we did. I know we did in Lime Grove. His camera work, he'd shot so many different bits of the underground in such a clever way that it looked as though it had been filmed in the underground, but it wasn't. It was all Douglas Campfield's very clever camera work, and my God, it was good, wasn't it?
It was.
Was that just one little section of tunnel then?
Yes.
Just different angles?
Yes, different angles.
It's extraordinary.
That's right.
Very, very convincing.
It's very authentic, isn't it?
And getting back a little bit before that, Debbie, you first appeared in Evil of the Daleks.
I did.
What memories does that bring back?
Oh, can I just say something about Web of Fear?
Oh, yes.
I have a little short story. And, do you mind me taking over?
I know. Liberty all.
This shot I wasn't in, but I was standing there watching them film it. And it was down the tunnel, i.e. the underground, and there was Fraser, Pat, and my father playing Professor Travers. And of course, yet again, Victoria's been dragged off by some monster, and they're trying to find her. So the scene is they walk down the underground, through the tunnel, and they find, Fraser says, oh look, it's Victoria's hanky, she must have gone this way. And then Pat says, oh yes, it is Victoria's. And Father says, well yes, we must go and find her, let's rescue this poor girl, this poor child. So they do the take. And so they start, and W. Campbell says, action. And Fraser walks down saying, oh, I'm worried about Victoria. Oh, doctor, look. Ah, Victoria must have passed this way. These are hers. And held up a pair of knickers. And Pat took them and said, yes, they certainly are. And my father took them and said, how do you know? That was one I remember very well. Dougie Campbell said, cut, take it again.
Oh, I wonder if that still exists.
I don't know, dear, don't know.
Great God, look at that. Here comes the
Good Lord.
Ah. Good morning. God.
I haven't seen one of those in years.
It is. Excuse me.
Where's his
You were
face?
not here. His face is gone.
Hello.
Hello. Where's his face? Oh, look. Very good.
Absolutely.
Yes, very good.
So, when do you expect, because you are pregnant, aren't you? I'm just wondering when it's due. And do you want a boy or a girl, or is that an indiscreet question to ask? Wonderful.
You can drag Debbie off later.
Fine.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I shall probably try to shoot you, but I'll miss. No doubt.
Did we shoot a Yeti? I can't remember.
Did I ever try to shoot a Yeti? I can't
Fairly
remember.
impervious, actually, weren't they?
Yes, I don't know whether I tried to shoot a Yeti. Well, someone will remember. I can't remember. I probably did. I went up to get a Regis Space weapon.
None of your episodes from that story actually exist anymore, sadly, because that's
right.
a period that particularly you, Debbie, were involved in the programme.
Yes, and
hang on, but one of mine exists.
yes, the first episode.
The first episode, but I don't come into episode 2.
Oh, I see.
Because I mean, Debbie's sitting at the table and said, "Who's the Colonel?" Because at that time I'm rather suspect of the character. Well, in fact, of course, the villain is the sergeant played by Jack Woolgar, who's been taken over by the intelligence. Was it called?
That's right, the intelligence.
That's right. So I've never seen the web before. Well, there we are.
Yeah, it's a great pity, isn't it, that those episodes have gone.
But so many have been destroyed, and various people say, why? And I can't answer them. I don't know. People have different theories on this. I don't know if anyone here, but some people say, lack of space, all that. And there was one extraordinary story. Someone said, oh yes, because Pat wanted them all destroyed because he didn't want the history there of him in Doctor Who, and I don't believe that for 1 minute. That's ridiculous. I just think they didn't have room.
Yeah. Yes. It's a pity. Of course, they found some episodes of the Ice Warriors quite recently.
Where did they find those?
Where did they find the Ice Warriors?
Anyone knows?
Just lying around in the archives or something. In a church hall. In a church hall. In a church hall. Yes. Well, there we are. Scour your local church halls, kids. You might find the rest of it. So the Ice Warriors, featuring Bernard Bresslaw, Peter Sallis,
that's
Lee
right.
Clarkworth, very good cast. What went on in the Ice Warriors?
Well, there was big Bernie Bresslaw, who played the leader of the Ice Warriors, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right.
That's right. And that was quite fun to do, actually. But we did come to a scene where Victoria was captured yet again. I think there's a lot of noise at the back. Heads keep turning.
Shut up, you
Here, at the back there. Quiet. Right. Anyway, no, Bernie Bresslaw captures me as what do you call it, the leader of the Ice Warriors?
I think he was called Varga.
Varga, that's it. And he takes me to the cave, and it's made of polystyrene, and let's face it, in those days it would be, and it wobbles slightly. So Bernie said to me, "Here, what then?" I can't do this, because he was in this big suit, and he couldn't see out of it. It kept steaming up, the eyes kept steaming up, and it was really hot. And I said, what do you mean you can't do this? Oh, I can't see where I'm going, he said. So I said, well, I tell you what, you're meant to drag me in, push me in, and I should be in front of you. And he said, well, that's all right, but then what happens? So I said, well, I tell you what, between the lines or whatever, between Victoria's screens, I'll go right, left, right. He said, all right then, let's have a go. So he pushes me into the cave, and we're going along quite well, really, for a couple of minutes. So all of a sudden I said, right, and Bernie goes right. A few more lines, left, Bernie goes left. Then there's a right. Bernie didn't go right, he went left. Went straight through the cave, demolished the whole thing. And he didn't realise. And I was covered in polystyrene, and the director said, cut, what's going on? I said, well, this poor guy cannot see. You know, so anyway, they took about a day to rebuild this cave. You saw the prop man going, oh my God, she's at it again. Oh. So that was one story, the Big Bernie.
Excellent. You've crossed swords with Bernard Bressel in the past, haven't you, Nick?
I have indeed, yes. I did a summer season in Bournemouth, 1976, of a play called There Goes the Bride. And Bernard Bressel was in the company, and a more delightful chap to work with. He is a smashing, very nice man, very kind and funny man. And then more recently, about a year or so ago, we did a charity thing at the Haymarket Theatre in London in aid of the Rose Theatre, you know, because they wanted to do the discovery of the site and the excavation. And all of us had to make fools of ourselves, and actually it was quite difficult because we had to do what they call unrehearsed Shakespeare. Everyone didn't know who was playing a part, and you had to come on and you were given some lines to learn, possibly with about 10 minutes. This was, they thought, how Shakespeare was done in Shakespeare's time, whereby, you know, you went to the theatre, picked up a costume, see if it fitted you, and someone would say, you're playing that part tonight, and you look at that, and presumably you know the lines. And Bernard Bressel and I, anyway, were involved in that charity, and that's the last time I saw Bernard. Bernard was very funny, because everyone got their lines wrong, and that was the whole point, it didn't matter. I was playing Capulet in Romeo and Juliet, father, and I got the lines wrong. I was prompted by the prompter, and I was supposed to say, "Oh Lord" or something, and he said, "No, you haven't said 'Oh Lord.'" I said, "Oh Lord," because I got the wrong line, which got a laugh from the audience. But everyone was absolutely. Gary Wilmot was there, and Susanna York and Margaret Courtney. Margaret Courtney is a wonderful statuesque actress, and she had a bit to do from one of the Shakespeare plays, and she had quite a bit to say. So she had this long gown on, and she pretended as though it was, you know, they often do productions where you do masks, and so she had this mask in front of her, and all her lines were written on the mask, and she was coming out of the lines very smoothly indeed. But it was a great evening, and that's the last time, sorry, it was all about Bernie Bressel last time I saw him. But what a nice man, very nice.
I actually worked with Bernie again. I played Cinderella at Theatre Royal Nottingham, yes.
I saw you.
Oh.
My hometown.
Oh, right. And Bernie was one of the ugly sisters. And he made a wonderful ugly sister, I can't tell you. But on the first night, he had all the kids, the down-and-out kids, the impoverished kids, the orphans, filled the theatre. They came from all parts of the city in lines, like a parade it was, all these poor kids, and they got into the theatre free, and they were holding candles, etc. It was a wonderful sight. But a lot of them little bruises, you know, all this going on. So there was one point where Bernie has to hit Cinderella, and he, you know, lashes out. He's a big guy, Bernie, and there was me. And he lashed out at me, and I do a cod fall right over the dressing table. And these kids went berserk. They threw anything they could get their hands on at Bernie. He had to go off stage. He actually had to go off stage, and nobody could control them apart from me, because they, I mean, I suppose they'd been through these experiences themselves, being hit, beaten, etc. They couldn't stand it, and if anyone came near me, I won't tell you the language that he used, but you get off her, you stay away from her. I thought, this pantomime's going to last 5 hours like this. But they were all on my side, and I was the only, it was a wonderful sense of power. I was the only one that night who could control them. I just had to go, it was dead silence. And if I didn't like something, I went, and they went, it was brilliant. Anyway, that's the last time I worked there.
I remember the sight of Bernard Bressel in a dress singing Ghostbusters. He seemed to be believed.
Oh, yes. Oh, what about the tights, the, you know, stockings and suspenders? You wore that? Oh,
You look very good.
Very good.
Very, very fetching. Let's talk about the monsters again. Debbie, you met all the greats, really, didn't you? You had the Daleks, and then the Cybermen, and the Ice Warriors, and the Yeti all came in your period. Did you have a particular favourite foe?
Well, my favourite foe, I suppose, was the seaweed monster.
Ah, yes.
Because I liked that because you didn't actually, it was a menace, you didn't actually see it for about 3 episodes, as I remember. But you could hear it getting nearer and nearer, because it was like a heartbeat, wherever it, I don't know if it were, but... And used to get nearer and nearer and nearer, and it was a menace, it was a threat. You never quite saw it. And I thought it was a really good monster, that one. But in the end you did, of course, all this foam and all these tendrils and things like that.
And defeated by your screaming.
Yes, my scream came into its own. It got written in. I defeated a monster by I was called Leather Lungs. Leather Lungs. Don't you remember? Who called me that? It was Pat, actually. Here comes Leather Lungs. I said, pardon? That was my nickname for about a year, Leather Lungs. So...
Thank you. Yes, and Nick, you never met the Ice Warriors, did you?
No, I didn't. No.
Right. How do you feel about the Daleks and the Cybermen and what did you?
Well, mine, I don't know the word favourites, right, as I think I've said before, is the ones that worried me most were those giant maggots in the Green Death. They were very nasty, those giant maggots, I think. I mean, spiders are pretty bad, but I think the maggots are worse than the spiders. So they're the ones I felt most confident about as a brigadier, getting rid of all these creatures. I mean, they were awfully unpleasant, those giant maggots. I mean, how dare they threaten my friend Katie Manning? I mean, anyone who threatened Katie Manning cross swords with me.
And in the middle of fighting all these monsters, Debbie, you did one story with no monsters at all, in which Pat actually played the villain, as well as the Doctor. The enemy.
Salamander.
That's right. How is that, playing with him as the goodie and as the baddie? Does that...
Oh, it was fun, actually. It was great fun, but we were so used to Pat playing the Doctor, of course, and his character. The first day of rehearsals of this new storyline, Enemy of the World? No.
Yes, Enemy of the World.
And we got to rehearsals, and we were doing the read-through, and Pat was his usual Doctor, fine, great, lovely. And all of a sudden, he started to act as Salamander, with his funny voice. And Fraser and I looked at each other, we looked at Pat, and we shrieked with laughter, because we just weren't used to it. We said things, we really sent him up, we said things like, you're not really going to play it like that, are you? You won't be able to get away with that, But no, he was a wonderful actor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was smashing.
That's one of my favourite episodes of Doctor Who. There's only one episode of that left. I think it's smashing. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
What story was that?
Well, Enemy of the World.
Enemy of the World.
Sort of James Bond setup in which Pat played the sort of evil South American dictator as well as the Doctor. He was the Doctor's guide.
Yes.
So, does anyone have a question for Debbie or for Nick?
The hands aren't raised.
Go on, let's see one. Yes.
Can we have the screen?
I'm sorry?
Can we have the screen?
And we have the screen. Well, sorry, from Nick or from Debbie?
No, brigadier's have a screen.
It's very early in the morning for me, You want a screen? Yeah. Who wants a screen? Oh dear. Right. I think I'll back off the mics. They might still be there, the power. You never know.
This is the first.
Will it pass all the first one? Right.
You sure about this? I just get back as far as I can. After all this, nothing will come out, will it? I'll be still there. Right. Now, count me in for 5, yes? All right? When I get back there, all of you count into 5, and I'll go on 5. No, sorry, the other way around. 5 to 1, all right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all right? You might get the scream in a minute, you never know. I'll have some water standing by.
Yes, absolutely.
minimum now for the convention, that's it.
Well, what can you match that with? Quick cry of my helicopter.
What can I match that with?
I think it's unmatchable, really.
It might take a long time.
Well, while Nick's trying to think of his match.
Jack McQueen's 5 rounds rapid.
Oh, yes.
Next time rounds right. Or indeed from a Pat Trout story, Invasion of Cybermen. One of his captains, Brigadier's talking to, through a walkie-talkie. Jimmy, I want you to get on my chopper and tell Benton to lay on a jeep. Jimmy, I want you to get on my chopper and tell Benton to lay on a jeep. And I said that and I didn't laugh. Great lines.
I know that Fraser Hines claims that the first line he had to speak to you.
Yes.
You take it from there.
Oh, it was the first episode I did, which was the second episode of the Daleks, wasn't it? And Fraser rescues me. Thank you, Alan, for prompting me. Fraser rescues me. All right, Victoria, and all the frocks, and this long passage, and there's a couple of Daleks wandering about. And the first day of filming, and I haven't met Fraser before, not really, just once, very briefly, at a press still for Dr. Who. And he was lovely, Fraser, and we did the first little scene. He says, Miss Waterfield, he comes and rescues me. We've got to get out of here, Quick, Miss Waterfield. And all this goes on, right? So the director says, right, let's go for one. I'm pretty nervous because it's first day of filming, and I haven't really acted with Daleks before either, Anyway, so the director says, action. And Fraser says, Miss Waterfield, it's Miss Waterfield. I said, yes, I've come to rescue you. Miss Waterfield, we must get out of here. Come on, please, quick, up your passage. And I looked at Fraser, I said, pardon? And he said, well, it says in the script, he said, oh, I can't say that. And Derek Martinez, who was a lovely director who was directing it, he said, why have you stopped? And I'm going, Derek, he can't actually say that line. Not to me, not like that. He said, what's the matter with it? And I said, Derek, it's Miss Waterfield up your passage. He said, yes, this is the passage. In the end, we convinced him he couldn't say it. But that was the first line Fraser actually said to me, up your passage.
It's downhill from there on, really.
It really was, yes. That was it.
I only got one way I think I might be able to sort of match Debbie's scream.
Oh, hello.
Deny this, did you?
No, that's, you've taken me by surprise.
That's all I'm doing so far.
What is it?
This. I don't know, it's a thing you makes all sorts of noises.
It's quite useful.
They gave me that in San Jose last year in America. Someone gave it to me. So I thought I'd bring it along just to show you.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Do you always carry it about?
No, always. Time to time. Selected places. I decided Exeter was just about ready for this.
Yes.
Or Exeter's ready for it. I didn't think Liverpool was.
No.
Is he all right?
I think he's a bit bonkers, actually. I'll just let him sit on the end and ignore him when he might get there. Does anyone have another question? Yes.
Yeah, with all the outside location work that was done, surely you must have come across some awkward situations from time to time.
So it's an awkward situation.
Yes, I mean, with anything spring to mind?
Well, yes, I'll jump in here, Dennis. I remember when we were filming Claws of Axos, which was done in Dungeness. I remember the filming was very bleak. And we had 5 days of pre-filming before we rehearsed in the studio. And every one of those 5 days, the weather was different. I mean, it was misty the first day. It was raining the next day. It was snowed the third day. It was sort of overcast the fourth day. And it was bright blue sunshine the fifth day. So a line had to be put in the studio. A corporal, someone played by a corporal. Actually, is there any woman corporal, how can I phrase this, I've ever had? I had lots of men corporals, but this was a woman corporal played by an actress by the name of Fernanda Marlet. And I was thinking, what do I say? The only woman corporal I've ever played with. I can't. Anyway, she was playing a woman corporal, and she had to say freak weather conditions, because they had to put the line in the studio, because the cameraman, I mean, must have driven in crackers. You had to do all the filming in 5 days, and each day the weather was totally different, so the matching up of all the shots must have been a nightmare, so they put this line in, freak weather conditions, which I suppose sort of explained it. Not bad.
Christopher Barry has said that that you all spent one morning while filming the Demons.
Oh, the Demons, yes.
Snow off the village.
Yes, it was in June, yes.
Yeah.
It was sunny the day before, and then we woke up one morning and it was snowing. Yes, that was the middle of June in Marlborough. Yeah.
Debbie, you have an awkward location story.
Not really, because I didn't do a lot of location work. A couple of location bits. I remember, not talking about freak weather conditions, but I don't even know which episode it was in. I had to get into a helicopter.
That was probably Fury from the Deep with the... no, Enemy of the World.
Yes, it was probably Enemy. Yes, probably Enemy. And I'd never been in a helicopter before, just myself and Fraser. And I thought, oh, well, he's going to be a gentleman, because after this scene, you had a couple of lines, and you have to run to the helicopter, get in, and it takes off, and you can see it in one shot go right the way up and land on the cliff top. So I said to Fraser, I've never been in a helicopter before. He said, oh, it's all right, Watley, you know, it's fun. I said, have you been in a helicopter before? He said, yes. Oh. So I thought, well, he's going to be lovely. He'll let me get in the middle, you know, so I'll get there first. So I'll be between him and the pilot. So we did this scene, and I'd never seen Fraser run so fast in all my life to that helicopter. He beat me. He was terrified. He was in the middle. I was on the outside with no door, thinking, oh my goodness, right the way, you know, it was terrifying. I'm not too good on heights, you see. And I said to Fraser, I'll kill you when I get back, I'll kill you. And he said, it's all right. I said, yes, you're in the middle, aren't you? Look, I've got this great drop here. Oh, it's beastly to me sometimes, but no, that's the only thing really.
Presumably the pilot made you feel comfortable about it, did he, before you did it?
No, he was an absolute nutter. He was, because we'd stayed at his hotel, all the crew and the pilot, and I thought there was something weird about him anyway. And we went down for drinks before dinner, and he said to me, would you like a drink? I said, yes, a glass of dry white wine would be very nice. He said, fine, let me buy you one. And he bought me a glass of dry white wine, and he ordered a brandy for himself. And we were all chatting away, and I was chatting to him. And I sipped my white wine, and he, in one gulp, down the brandy. I thought, oh God, he's a heavy drinker. So I had another sip of my white wine, and then he proceeded to very slowly eat the brandy glass. He ate every bit of it apart from the stem. And I thought, oh, this man, oh, no, not getting near this one. And he was very strange. And he did, I thought, I must see this again, so I ordered another dry white wine. And he had another brandy, and proceeded to eat the brandy glass. I don't know what's happened to him. He couldn't have lasted long.
No.
Oh, sorry.
A bit like Courtney in the bar last night, actually.
Probably you got
I didn't hear that. I think you dreamt the whole thing.
Yes, I dreamt the whole thing.
I've been with Fraser Hines in the helicopter. About 3 years ago, bless him, he rang me up and he said, Nick, because at that time he had part interest, he said, in a horse called Joe Sugden, and Fraser and I are both racing fanatics. And so he said, well, look, I'm going to the Derby and the Racing Post is paying for it. Why not come with me? I've got spare tickets. I said, wonderful Derby later, really. I put all the, I was going to say soup and fish, but the morning coat and all that. And I was going to meet him just outside Epsom and racecourse. And he rang up and said, no, you don't have to meet me there. We've got a helicopter. So I had to go to just outside Heathrow and where he was having breakfast. And lo and behold, we got into a helicopter. It's the only way to ride at Derby on Derby Day, because I mean, otherwise, you know, the traffic's incredible around there. And so we arrived in the middle of the course in a helicopter, and we had this wonderful day, you know, all the food and drinks and all paid for by someone else. And then I proceeded to back 6 losers. I didn't get one winner that day, including Fraser Hines' horse, Joe Sugden. But so I've been with Fraser Hines in a helicopter.
Anyone else been in a helicopter? Do we have another question?
No, they've all gone silent.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh yes,
yes.
did something wave at the moment? No, it didn't. Right.
Nope.
Well, what else should we talk about? Let's talk about. We talked about the Cybermen yet? Not really.
No, not in any great depth.
Let's talk about the Cybermen in great depth.
Great day.
The Tomb of the Cybermen was one of your stories, now regarded as one of the great classics, where the Cybermen were all cocooned up in ice
yes, a honeycomb,
That's
if I
right.
remember it.
That's right.
In a dome?
Yes, that's it. It's underground.
Underground.
It was underground, was it?
Faults.
Right. You see, don't get me wrong, I haven't lost interest, but it was so long ago that, it's, over 20 years, it must be now, that, what do I remember about them?
Don't worry if you don't.
I remember those little cyber mats.
That's right,
Yes, I remember those. When we were in the studio, the prop men used to have great games with these cyber mats, i.e. chasing Victoria all over the studio. They used to come out from corners and get at me. But the cybermen, I don't really remember very much about them, I have to admit it. Although, I do remember when we first walked into the dome, and they were all in compartments, I think it was.
That's right.
And we were doing the take, and it was quite eerie. We thought they were dead, frozen. And as you passed one of them, it just slightly twitched the head, just like that. And I saw it, and I thought, that is really eerie, because it was very silent as well. All these sort of, like a honeycomb, wasn't it? But that's all I remember.
Then they burst out through the plastic all front of them.
It was meant to be ice, not plastic. Don't disillusion everybody. It's meant to be ice.
Yes, that doesn't exist at all, unfortunately. No episodes of that, but it's a very impressive looking set from the photographs and everything. It looks absolutely beautiful.
Is it audio? Is there any audio?
I think the audio soundtrack exists. Actually, did you know this, Debbie? The BBC Radio Collection are about to start looking into releasing some of the old Troughton stories on audio cassette with people narrating the bits that are more visual, and they're actually going to come out. I think that's one of them.
Oh, that'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
Get some money for that.
Hopefully. Oh, you kidding?
And it was quite shortly after that you met the Cybermen, Nick.
Yes, I was just thinking, very sadly, I knew the man who created the Cybermen, thought up the idea, as, for example, Terry Nation created the Daleks, was a writer called Jerry Davis, who very sadly died this year, actually, and he died, I think, because he had a house in Crouch End in North London, where I live, and he also spent a lot of time in America, and he was a very, very nice man, Jerry, and it was rather sudden. But yes, I met them. Yes, I met the Cybermen indeed with Pat Troughton and the wonderful Kevin Stoney, who was playing Tobias Vaughan, I think was the name of the villain. He played wonderful villains, Kevin Stoney. And that was the invasion of the Cybermen, that's right. That's the first time the Brigadier appeared as opposed to the Colonel. And then later, of course, in the Five Doctors, I get grabbed, don't I, run by the wrist.
Oh, that's right.
You know, Cyberman gets me by the wrist when I'm with Pat Troughton, which was... And Pat has to free me, I remember. It was great fun doing the Five Doctors to have all my scenes with Pat, and particularly, when we met the Yeti in the caves, it was sort of great, talking back, it was nice, and Terence Dix wrote it awfully well, because he knew me very well by that time, and I had a lot of fun with Pat filming in the Welsh hills, and it was very cold, and he turned to me sometimes, he said, "Nick, I think it's time for a noglet," which is a hip flask with a little drop of scotch. A noglet, he used, a wonderful word, time for a noglet. Because he said, it's very cold, I think we can have a noglet at about 11:30 in the morning. I said, well, not before 12, Pat, surely. He said, well, it's very cold, come on, let's have a noglet.
Was the Five Doctors was an extraordinary project because it was constantly being rewritten as various people proved to be either available or not.
Yes.
Was there ever a point, Debbie, at which you were mooted to be involved in that? This was the 20th anniversary show.
That's right. What was the Two Doctors then?
The Two Doctors was with Pat and Fraser a couple of years after that.
I know, it was the Five Doctors then, I think. Yes, it was the Five Doctors that they wanted me to do a bit in. But at the time I was doing a series with Dave Allen for Thames, playing, all the parts opposite him. So I couldn't do it. But I was very disappointed, actually. But I thought, Dave Allen's series would do quite a lot of good for me. And halfway through filming, Dave became ill, and they cancelled the whole series. So I missed out on both. 5 doctors and Dave.
It's a pity. So we had little Wendy Padbury.
Yes.
That's right.
And Fraser, of course, was yes, and 5 doctors. It was a lot of fun then.
I think you, Nick, were originally to have gone around with poetry.
Well, that would have been the idea, because after all, I was more associated with John than perhaps I've done more stories with him. But then, because as you say, when Tom decided not to do it, they had to rejig, and Turnsticks kept on writing out new drafts. And as I say, all my stuff was with Pat, which was lovely.
Enjoyable getting back together with everybody.
Yes, a great deal of noise went on in the rehearsal room as people came in one after the other each day. And the poor director, Peter Moffat, because every time a new person would come through the rehearsal room doors, and how Peter got me a rehearsal done and the noise, and Diana Sheridan, who was a guest artist from that, so I said, I went upside to, don't worry, we're not always like this, but we haven't seen each other for ages. Do forgive us for making so much noise, and she sort of sat there rather bemused. But Peter Moffat, who was a very, very kind and tolerant person, managed, and we got the work done.
Excellent. Is there another question?
What's your best memory of Doctor Who, David?
Pardon?
What's your best memory of Doctor Who?
My best memory of Doctor Who? Oh dear. Well, I remember when I was actually told I had got the part of Victoria. That was wonderful. And I thought, I wonder what this year's going to hold for me. Little did I know. And I had a marvellous time. I don't know if I have a best memory. All of it is a lovely memory to me, honestly. Working with, Pat and Fraser and various people and Nick here, and with my dad, all the people who came into it. It was like family. So it's one big best memory for me. It really was. Nick, how long did you do it?
Rephrase that, possibly. What did you say? Good morning.
How long were you with Doctor Who?
Well, you see, 1965 is the first time I appeared a different character, Brett Bryan, in the story with William Hartnell. 1965 to 1989. How long is that? 65 to 89, that's 13.
14 years?
So I've been involved with it 34 years. On and off. What?
24.
34. I can't do maths, you see. I got a note I got my school report at home, which I keep treasured possession. And at the bottom, because I was educated in Egypt, and one report I got was that the headmaster said, I defy anyone to drive mathematics into Nicholas's head, because I'm not good at maths, even though I pretended to be good at that in Mordred Undead, teaching A-level maths. But 1965 to 1989.
24.
6 and 8, yes, I'm sorry, I'm thinking 5, yes. Take away, carry 1, yes, thank you, right.
Quite long enough, isn't it, Nick?
Quite long enough, yes. Quite a long time. On and off, on and off.
And I did my year was 67, 68.
Yes, that's right. Just over a year.
Oh my goodness. Long time ago.
Yep.
Oh dear.
Do you ever still, well, it's not on anymore, but did you ever carry on?
I used to catch it now and again, but if you're doing a lot of theatre and you're on the road, there's just no time.
That's right.
But I caught it now and again.
And as an old hand, if I may say
You're going to put me on the spot here.
You can hit me later. How do you feel that it's progressed since your time?
See, I haven't seen a complete storyline. As I say, I've caught the odd episode. I really can't comment because, to me, you see, it was a job, a wonderful job for me. But I didn't follow it after that.
Right.
So I'd hate to pick anybody out. It's like I'm opting out, isn't it? But I'm not. I don't know. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, people at conventions, and they say, what do you think? And I really give the same answer. And they tell me what they think. I know all their opinions about it. I'm strange because, well, not that strange. I love black and white.
Yes.
For
yes.
me, it's amazing. And what used to get away with in black and white as well. Okay, some of the sets weren't like this, but the atmosphere was terrific with all those monsters. And I've seen a couple of episodes that survived, and I really think they do stand up, and I love that.
Very well.
I think terribly well.
Yes. And when do you remember this year they did all about Lime Grove and they showed an unearthly child, and that stood up excellently well. God, I felt sorry for Bill Hartnell and Russell Enoch and Caroline Ford, and because in those days, of course, if you fluffed a line, and they didn't edit it, and so each of them actually did fluff a line, but they didn't do retakes in those days. You fluffed a line, it stayed in the show. You fluffed it. Must have been very difficult, but it did stand up enormously well. It was a very good story of an unearthly child, and the black and white. I agree with Debbie. I think a lot is very good in black and white. That's why I'm very against this idea of colorizing things. Because a cameraman or a director shoots a certain film, whether it's television or whether it's cinema film, in a certain way, and to put color on it when it wasn't originally the concept wasn't in color seems to me absolutely unnecessary. Absolutely.
When you came in with the beginning of the Pertwee era, Nick, there was an awful lot of experimentation going on actually on the show, wasn't there, with new techniques, with colour
separation, overlay,
Doctor Who was used as a sort of training ground for the BBC.
Yes, it was.
Did that slow things down, or was that sort of...
it probably did in studio recording time, somewhat, but that was inevitable. I don't think we often went into overtime. It did slow things down. Obviously, I'm sure Debbie did the same. We often, inevitably, because of special effects, shot everything out of order. You never, and that's why it was very necessary during rehearsal to have one rehearsal in story order, and then it's very good to do another rehearsal with it in recording order. But it's very important to remember the thread of the story, because if you forget that, it's going to probably show when you're doing everything out of order.
Yeah.
But yes, it did this colour separation overlay. I've forgotten what that means.
I don't know what that means.
Well, that's where they put you against a blue or a yellow background, and then they feed in a different background from another camera to make it very small, or put you on another planet or whatever. Yes. Yes. Did you enjoy stories that were heavy on effects, or was it more fun to just get on with the human side?
I didn't mind either way. It's not up to me. I like the stories. I mean, the writer, as I said earlier, is the most important person. But I mean, what would Doctor Who be without its effects? I mean, they're essential to Doctor Who, absolutely. And eventually, and that's why I think it works. I mean, the whole thing about Doctor Who, always the budgets were very small. But I think this was a virtuous way, because it made the producers, the directors, everyone use their imagination more, rather than having a massive budget like they do, for example, in Star Trek. I think it's very good, and Nathan Turner, said this, and he has the same view when people say, isn't it a shame to have such a small budget? He said, no, it makes everyone use their creative imagination more. I think that's probably right.
Just winding up now, but do we have another couple of questions? Yes.
Yeah, Nick. Which vehicle did you enjoy driving more in Battlefield, the 2CV or the Land Rover?
There's no doubt, the Land Rover, I think. Yes, the 2CV, my God, I got my legs. Yeah, they're very small CVs, aren't they? I think what I really enjoyed most of all those old days when I drove Bessie. Well, I didn't get to drive very often. John Poe wouldn't let me. He was saying, Brigadier, you can't drive, you're a terrible driver, Nick. But I think I enjoyed Bessie. But the Land Rover was easier, certainly. The Dishful, they are so small, those 2 CVs, and so, it wasn't like this. I think the Land Rover was easier, certainly, and I got the feeling that I hang up the Land Rover. It was so much easier vehicle to drive.
Any more from the audience? Yes, right at the back, hello.
Nick, have you ever worked with Colin Baker?
Have I worked with Colin? No, I never did as the Brigadier. It's the only Doctor I haven't worked. Well, only at conventions, and of course now we work together a great deal because we're both equity counsellors, because I persuaded him 4 years ago, and he's very interested in equity, and so now we have a Doctor and a Brigadier on the Equity Council, God help the employers. But Colin and I have done a number of conventions together, and indeed in this November issue of Doctor magazine, which I was talking about earlier, which I feature somewhat. Actually, Colin and I met about 2 days ago. We met to talk to the BBC about their future plans, and he said he's writing something in this. I think it'll be the same edition that I've written something in. It's about when the 6th Doctor meets the Brigadier. And I won't tell you in detail because he hasn't written it yet, but basically it's to do with Doris. And it's, Well, I think I'll let you read it. I don't want to spoil it all, but Colin's writing this at this very moment, actually. Writing where the Sixth Doctor meets the Brigadier. So, watch next month's Doctor Who magazine, which is a unit special. I think it'll be next month. I think it has to be, because I've got to do a signing session in London at the end of next month for it. So, but apart from that, we haven't actually worked together on stage. But of course, I mean, like, so many conventions I've done with Colin, I mean, that's working, same as working together, really. And it's great fun to work with.
I worked with Colin. I played Goldilocks. And he played Hankel, the wicked ringmaster. And he stole my 3 bears. And he had this wonderful scene in the circus ring. And I was getting slightly worried about Colin because he had all this leather gear on and a whip. And oh, it was very funny. And he used to love that scene. But he used to come at me with his whip, and I thought, oh, he's going to get me one day. He's going to get me one day. And he used to get all butch, and I thought, oh, here I come, what now? Oh, no. It was great, though. He played a really evil Heinkel. It really was, and he loved every minute of it.
Whenever mention of Colin Baker and clothes comes up at conventions, I have to ask the question, did you encounter Colin Baker's famous lucky underpants?
No.
Nor did I. It's kind of contrary to many reports.
What are they?
Really?
Well, he claims that he's worn the same pair on every first night since the year dot.
Really?
Oh, not working them again.
Well, I suppose underpants can last that long, Nick, can they? I guess.
Well, if they're Colin Baker.
Colin Baker's, yes. Yeah, special underpants.
Well, I think all this talk of Colin Baker's underpants and wigs and things, we're getting a little bit too salacious. So we'll be seeing both of these lovely people later this weekend, but for the time being, ladies and gentlemen, let's say a big thank you to Nicholas Courtney.
Yes. Thanks very much. Pleasure, thank you. Thank you. I'm up there. Right. Oh, I did originally, then you said found in newspaper. I had to take my arm away. Thanks very much. Okay, it's pleasure. Right. We'll sit down just after a bit. Debbie, don't worry about it.
Where's the Yeti?
Where's the Yeti? Oh yes, he's having a coffee break. He's having a coffee break.
Oh, put it down. Oh, winner of the most gratuitous food. Oh, no, it's fallen out. What? Nice boxes you've got. Hello. Is it fallen out? Sorry?
And he said, I think we ought to stop this show. So I didn't do any more. And then, some years later, not very long after that, when I was about 17, I had been trained as an accountant. A curious thing for someone who can't add up. But there, that's what I was apprenticed to. And I had my very first girlfriend. When I say I had my very first girlfriend, you understand, I don't mean anything reprehensible at all. I merely mean that I had acquired a lady, a very charming young lady, company to the cinema, things like that. And I took her home to meet my parents, not in a formal manner, but just because she had to go around and I didn't want to lose her company when I went home at the weekend. And we were on our way back and we were standing on Didcot Station near Abingdon. And this will demonstrate, and I'm sure many actors could say, most actors could say something as absurd as this. I was standing on the station and because I have a very low boredom threshold, which I still have, I gave a sort of romantic sigh, for no particular reason, other than feeling bored. And she said, "What is the matter?" She said, "I understand, somebody stands there at 11 o'clock, and oh, you think something's going on." So I said, "Oh, I don't want to be an accountant." And she said, "What do you want to be?" And I remembered the big pink space and all this kind of thing. And I said, I really want to be an actor. And she said, "Write to the local theatre." And I said, "Oh, ridiculous, how can I write a letter saying, dear Miss Chaundy," which was, I still remember her name, "I would like to be an actor. I did one school play and then the Dramatic Society folded." Oh. She said, "No, write." And I've always been very influenced by this. It's a sad confession, but it's true. They've had a great influence on me, and I admire them enormously. They seem much more level-headed than men are, and far more imaginative. And so I wrote. And I got a letter back to my surprise to come and see me next Thursday. And of course, it was wartime. People were being called up like mad and being sent off to the front and being shot at. And they needed people to do anything, sweep the stage, take the curve up and so on. And I was indeed enrolled as an ASM, Assistant Stage Manager. And did just that and sort of swept the stage, huge broom, 4'6" across. Clouds of dust, and you had to go around and wham the dust off all the furniture. And I was very lucky in my very, very first week. I walked through that stage door, I shall never forget it, having already fallen desperately in love with the leading lady from afar, from my seat up in the gallery. To think I was actually going to meet this vision, this goddess I was going to meet. She has incidentally become a lifelong friend, and is now slightly older, of course. And I remember being taken through what we used to call the iron door, because that's what it was, a big iron door to keep the sound out. And only actors were allowed to go through. No member of the public was ever allowed through this door. On my very first day, which was a Tuesday, which is when we started plays on Tuesdays in those days, rehearsals. And I still have that strange tipping over of the stomach when I remember I get the feel of that iron door opening and I was allowed through it. And I was actually going on to my pink space. And I arrived there and was introduced as a member of the company, albeit a 17-year-old, very new member of the company, but nevertheless an accepted member of the company. £2 a week. I was very proud. And my gigs cost £1. I can't convert this to metric. £1, 29 shillings. Whatever 29 shillings are, I'm sure you know that. But
Bum, the accountant eyes.
No, that's lost on everything. But there we are, that's how it all began. And that very first week, I've always been lucky all my life. Indeed, going to Doctor Who, this was luck. Just floated in, I didn't do anything about it. But my very first part, sitting there at a table not unlike this, with the actors there, acting away, and we got halfway through the second act. We were doing a play called The Venetian by Clifford Bax. And the director suddenly said, "Oh, I've forgotten, we've got the messenger coming in. And do you act, boy?" And I said, yes. And he said, "Right, give him the script. The page 110, halfway down, the messenger comes on. You come on from there, bring Miss Crutchley, where's Miss Crutchley, on, sit her there, and then go round the back and get off. Nice and off you go. Right over. Taking back a few lines. And I can remember now, I think they can hear my heart going, and the hands sweating, and the head suddenly seemed enormous. And I went on. I remembered my mother saying, once she settled down to the idea of my becoming an actor, "Now, speak up clearly so they can hear it back." So I took a huge breath and said my first professional line, "Hush, lady is hurt." What a hell of a thing to say. "Hush, lady is hurt. Gently, gently." Put her down. Desperate. desperately difficult line. Needs an actor of 30 years experience to say this properly. I don't even know I could do it now. And sat down and went on, shaking, and then went back and sat down. And we went on for about 2 pages, and I hasn't said anything. And we got to the end of the act, and he leant across and said, "Not bad, boy, not bad. Bit more voice." A bit more voice? He means he wants it louder? That was me taking a big breath for him. And that was the start. He said, "Have you ever been in Doctor Who?" And I said, no, I haven't. And I couldn't understand why I hadn't, because I was around when William Hartnell started, and Patrick Trout and I chased over every studio in the big Diamond Grove and beat him over the head with wax bottles many a time. I couldn't quite understand why I wasn't in the Doctor Who. It didn't work out that way. And by the next day, my agent rang and said, had a director on the phone, he said he met you yesterday, would you like to be in Doctor Who? And I said yes, and it was pure chance, absolutely total chance meeting. The subsequent ones, of course, were very, very different, because by then I'd already done one, and so I was in the book. And in those days, of course, you could go back to do things. Now, for instance, if you're in the bill, you wait a year, they won't have you back. But in the old days, so I did about 7 Dr. Finlow's case books within the space of 2 years, you know, just by putting a different moustache and another hat on. And a slightly different accent, not all that different, right?
What was John Pertwee like to work with?
He was great fun. I liked him enormously. It was his first one, so it was very different working with him later, because I did 2 with him and 2 with Tom Baker. The first one, it was his first one, as you know. It was the first Exo, I think. But yes, it was the first of John Pertwee's. So he was understandably fairly apprehensive. We also had the disadvantage, which many of you may know by now, that you're obviously addicts, if I dare use the word. There was a strike at the BBC. Everybody had gone. I don't know how many people had gone. So a lot had gone on strike. They'd gone on strike to such a degree we couldn't use Television Centre, which by then, of course, had been open for a few years. And we were all sent down to the Vale of Evesham, to the training studios for everybody, engineers. In those days, engineers went down there, makeup people went down there, and they just did training programs. And we did the whole thing there on film. And it was fortunate that we did, really, because it meant that the thing was preserved as a film. And not all of them have been, as you know, and not all Doctor Who's, of course, are on video. I think only 2 of mine are on video. Terror of the Zygons and Exo Space. Yes. That's right. And the other 2 aren't, I don't think.
Not yet. One maybe.
Do you think they may, or maybe, with any degree of luck? Yes, he was good. The good thing about John Pertwee, I always felt, was that, I'm sure he won't mind my saying this, well, perhaps he will.
Say it anyway.
Okay, I'll say it anyway. We got on very well, but you've got to be a bit egocentric. I wouldn't say an egomaniac exactly, but you've got to be a bit egocentric to play the sort of thing he does the way he does it. And indeed, you've got to be a bit egocentric to play Doctor Who. To be honest, of course, you've got to be a bit egocentric to be an actor at all. There are a lot of shy actors, as you probably know. There are a lot of people like Guinness who are almost self-effacing to a degree. But at the same time, underneath all these things, there is a kind of exocentricity, that egocentricity has to be able to play a central character, especially somebody like who I think is one of the most brilliant ideas. If I may break off just for a moment here, because it's something that I thought of saying. I very rarely think of saying anything in advance, but I was sort of thinking about being with you all this weekend. Having experienced one of these before this year, I went to Scotland earlier in the year. And I thought there was something I didn't say when I was there that I feel somebody ought to say to you, and I've got an uneasy feeling nobody's said it yet. And it's simply this, that I think there's something really wonderful about having this kind of enthusiasm about something like Doctor Who. I can understand many members of the general public thinking this is a bit strange. It's a bit of a strange obsession, or indeed a strange kind of hobby, if you like, to have, or a strange enthusiasm to have. I don't agree with this at all. I think the Doctor Who has a very particular quality, and a quality, although I'm a great, I have to admit, a great Star Trek fan, both of the old ones and the new lot, and I've worked with Picard on occasions in the theatre, and one television bit together. Who is a bit different. That's much more of a team thing. It doesn't have, as a central character, this amazing Time Lord. And it occurred to me that there's got to be a good reason for this. We were speaking to somebody about it earlier this morning, who's not actually, believe it or not, actually seen a Doctor Who, because she doesn't actually have a television set, and hasn't watched television. She doesn't know about Doctor Who, and was asking me why it was such a huge success. And I said, because I think at its core there is something very, very worthwhile and very, I hate the word worthy, but I can't think of a better, something really quite worthy at the heart of Who, because he, being a Time Lord, being outside time and space, being able to go forwards, backwards, or stay where he is, in this century or in the other century, being totally removed from space, he is able to remove